you know that almost 1 million people were killed. I was able to see a few 100,000 young children without parents, without mothers or fathers. I was able to speak to many women who had been raped and left to die. And the story of the survivors, those who did survive, was why did nobody stop this? When we used to go to the camps, there was one particular woman who pointed a very strong accusatory finger at me and to others and asked, why don't we stop the guns that come to these countries? It is you out there who send these guns. Very, very powerful. And in discussions it was very clear that in fact this conflict could have been prevented. The international community had the information. The plan to commit the genocide was made several years back. The systematic planning continued. The hate radio was active 1.5 years before the genocide. There were many signals which were available to the international community. But precisely when the genocide happened, the United Nations withdrew from Rwanda. It did not go in, but it withdrew its forces. And the only time that intervention happened was to rescue the foreign expatriate population when the Belgians, the French and the others sent planes and left the people to be massacred. And I think this, in the conference that I attended, we went more into detail about this, and it is very, very clear that it is the indifference as well as the selectivity of the international community, in that Yugoslavia was given much more importance in the public media as well as in the general discourse, while many such conflicts were left to themselves. Now, what are the lessons that one can learn from the Yugoslavias, the Rwandas, the Somalias, the Burundis, and many others that we are witnessing today? And I would like to just dwell a little bit on some of the kind of issues that have come up. The first one, of course, is that it is possible to prevent some of these conflicts. Not all of them, but certainly some of these conflicts could be prevented. But it requires a much greater, if you like, commitment, knowledge, interest of the global community. And this is the first lesson that we know in talking in conflict situations, that the Rwandas could have been prevented. The second question, of course, is the lack of political will to prevent conflicts. And this is related to several issues, and one of them, of course, is the problem of sovereignty. The problem of sovereignty is such that after the Second World War, and with the edifice of the United Nations, which was built on the respect for the sovereignty of nations, the United Nations was primarily concerned with interstate conflicts, with conflicts between states. And particularly in internal conflicts within a state and between peoples, the non-interference in the internal affairs of a country prevents the international community from early action. It is only by invitation party to the conflict, a government or a party, must invite the outside to come in, and the parties must agree to an outside intervention. And the problem, therefore, is how does one go early enough to prevent these conflicts, and how do you get the two parties who are potentially in conflict to come together when they do not have much interest in coming together. The third aspect of this issue is that no single agency today can prevent or resolve conflicts. The United Nations is paralyzed. It can at most concentrate on about 8 to 10 conflicts at any given time, and there has developed therefore a situation where the capability of the United Nations to deal with the conflict is getting less and less, and its moral premise of the United Nations to banish the scourge of war is getting less and less possible. On the other hand, whilst the United Nations has a problem of mandate, lack of flexibility, and creativity, the non-governmental organizations which have been developed over time also reflect their own limitations. If you take, for example, the humanitarian agencies, which have been developed as a response to conflict situations, more and more the humanitarian agencies, for example, themselves begin to have a vested interest in conflicts. And you have an unholy alliance between the Western media and the humanitarian agencies. For example, 2 years ago, Oxfam collected 87 million pounds, primarily the failure of Rwanda. And it is the failure of preventing conflicts which makes people more and more provide the resources, the money for the humanitarian agencies to act. If you go to Goma, the refugee camps, or to Tanzania or to Burundi, there are large numbers of humanitarian agencies who over time build up this vested interest and therefore do not concentrate on the prevention or the resolution of these conflicts, but on the effects of conflict situations.